Welcome to the Love Your Brand podcast. If you're looking for real conversations with real people, you're the right place. Let's go!
I look around, I remember when you bought this thing, if nobody's listened to this yet, we're in an RV in the front yard or the side yard, right? Down in the side yard. I remember when you got this walking in and this is going to be the studio. This is it.
Yeah, man.
And we filmed last week, right? That was, if you haven't watched, go watch episode 1. It's actually a blooper reel because Jason and I, not Jason Alexander, Jason Ramsey and I could not get the words out. And, but we talk a little about it. You'll see kind of in my background, have the black now. We're swapping out the curtains, but this mobile podcast is coming along. And dude, I'm looking, this setup is sick.
It is. We've came a long way in a short amount of time. That's for sure.
Dude, and we got big things coming in the mail. We'll be setting this up, but last time our audio didn't work. Cut the mics on, but we just did a loop of like 10 seconds at a time. So we had to do the iPhone footage and the Android footage. But dude, I'm liking this.
Nice.
I'm digging this.
I like it. We've got gear strode everywhere. Ring lights, clamps, cords. So hopefully as it progresses, we'll streamline it a little bit.
Yup.
So we can hit the road.
It's 2-camera shoot. I mean, for anybody who wants to launch a podcast, I guess we officially launched.
Yeah.
But looking around, you don't need much. I think it took me a day to get it set up. You got all the audio, you got everything, and we're using our phones to film. This is it. I'm happy with it. I like our layout.
Keep it simple, stupid.
You want to tell them got that neon light coming?
Yeah. So we went back and forth with this company on about the 18th round.
Bro.
I think we finally got something that's usable.
They would produce. We won't call out this company, and I'm shocked that we decided to move forward with them from 2 weeks of correspondence. But we're getting this neon light. We don't know where we're going to put it in here. It's going to be the Love Your Brand. It's going to look sick, but you give this company a logo, and we just wanted the thing produced with a little backlight, right? And they would give us pretty good comp. We'd give them a little direction, and then it would come back, and it's like 1 step forward, 3 steps back.
Yeah.
And it was just over and over and over again. So this is going to be a greatly anticipated thing that's going to come in. That's going to be the staple of the studio, I think.
I think so. And then once we get it wrapped, and if you see it going down the road, we'll emulate the brand, the Love Your Brand.
Yep.
Sounds funny. On the
Love Your Brand.
On the actual RV itself. So that'll look pretty dope.
I can't wait to get that done. I as I was driving over this morning to film with you, pull up and like I said earlier, just see the RV sitting over in the side, and a lot of people, they have a boat in their driveway. They got an RV in their driveway, for those purposes. So you look at it right now and you don't think that's a mobile studio. That's a mobile podcast.
Yeah.
I'm laughing because you got your neighbors over here that hopped in frame last week when we filmed and, they just see us coming in and out of RV all day. They're probably like, what is going on in that RV? No. And then when we get it all outfitted, you're going to wrap it, going to get the graphics. It's going to look amazing. But I just started thinking this morning, think of all the greats that we have, in business and the brands today, the Amazons, the Jeff Bezos, all these companies, Steve Jobs. And I don't know if this is a true fact, but it said they all started in their garage. You go online and you see the picture of them in the garage, and Apple, how it all started right here. Amazon, how it all started right here. And it got me excited because I'm looking here. I'm like, hey, dude, this is the RV. So I don't know if you want to elaborate, what are your goals down the road with this thing? Because we're going to look back one day and just see that you just bought an RV one day, and then where it is driving down the road, the guests that we're going to have on here to share their success stories, because it's not about us. We want to hear from other people. But where do you want this to go, man?
Well, you got to start somewhere, right? And
it's true.
The biggest thing with any project or anything that you're moving towards, you always feel a lot of resistance. You got to get everything a certain way. You've got to get so much information before you take your first step. So, I'm like, man, I want to talk to people. It's like, and I want to talk face to face. So how can I make this happen? Yeah, we can talk over Zoom, but honestly, I'm zoomed out, right?
Yeah, right.
So I'm like, well, I could build a building outside, convert it into a studio, or I could convert my garage, the upper part, into a studio, or I could buy a place. Well, I looked around for a while. This was pre, you know, um, the pandemic phase, whatever you want to call it, and couldn't really find a space. And then after that, it was pretty difficult. So, we stayed hybrid, and, we all work a lot from home.
Right.
So, I have a lot of kids. So I was like, how's that going to work? Making my home office into a podcast,
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool having, a bunch of kids run around. I wouldn't change a thing, but I said I wanted to create more of an intimate atmosphere. So eventually I want to have the mobile opportunity to where we can go visit people, partners, clients, whatever. Also want to have a space, which we do, which hopefully you'll get to hear from next week. A buddy he's got a pretty killer setup that's in Belmont that we can actually film podcast in. So that's more of a brick and mortar location. Because let's face it, if I call up a random person and I'm like, hey, come to this address and come to my RV.
Come on.
It's
just
like
cut through the backyard fence.
Yeah, it's okay. Come on, I got candy.
Watch out for the dog.
Right? It's like so it could be a little awkward. So
True.
A brick and mortar, of course, that's there now, but eventually I want to have a whole space that's kind of like a co-op space, that people can also use our studio. So that's kind of in the future. But out of all those elements, I just started with the mobile podcast. Honestly, I felt like, of course I can use it to, take the kiddos on a weekend camping trip, go visit clients and not have to worry about finding a place to stay, but also have the ability to have these moments with the people that I come across and have these conversations. And I love learning about their story, their brand story, where they came from, how they got there, what happened in their life to get them to where they're at. I find myself talking with people so often and getting engulfed in this story, and I just want to know, it's just in my nature. I just want to get to know them. So I was like, wow, what's a cool way to showcase, to tell these stories, and also showcase all the other passion projects that are going on, or potential future projects when we launch them. Well, podcasts are pretty big now. Mass media, has kind of went on the downward trend. People are looking for real people to communicate with and to hear stories from, and to have these conversations with different opinions, different backgrounds, and something that they can relate to, instead of just watching the news, a talking head,
right,
15 channels all saying the same thing, right? So I mean, that's kind of the vision. That's how it came along, and it's just taking the first step. It was like, hey, buy an RV. Hey, let's buy some equipment. Hey, let's record this week.
That's
hey,
right.
Let's,
We're just kind of checking schedule. Like, hey, you free tomorrow? Got a couple hours. Let's go do something.
So I'm all about just, especially if there's any kind of conviction. I feel like conviction is a central point of any brand story, of any company, of any organization. I feel like, that's the bigger part of the narrative, right? Everybody has a story. They create their own brand story of an entity. But then there's a larger narrative that gets created. And I just find that so interesting, how that relates. I don't know if You know, think of it like the American dream is a narrative, and then everybody's got their own opinion or brand story of the American dream. You know,
That's right.
it's almost like a Christmas tree and ornaments. You know, your narrative is the Christmas tree, and your everybody's brand story is the ornaments that they put on the tree. It's like a loop, right? A narrative is never ending. It's there, right? Like the American dream. When did it start? You know, I was listening to this dude. I forgot his name. He's like, yeah, there's no start date. It's the American dream, right? It's a bigger narrative, and that narrative is built off conviction. So when we're talking about brands and meeting with companies, any day of the week, I'd rather meet with a company and, you know, forget, you know, crazy R&D and data and all that stuff. You know, I think it's sometimes overkill. I would rather a company have a strong conviction and narrative, and then take that.
Yeah.
Love your brand. Let's do it.
Let's go.
Let's go. Yeah, I don't know why I went off on that tangent. I forgot what you asked.
It's good. I think my original question was just kind of where you see this going and kind of a thing. And you brought up a good point with, like, I mean, the pandemic a couple of years ago and, you know, today, whatever the date is that we're filming today, there's talk of another lockdown coming. So, you know, with that, if it happens, if it doesn't happen, but I agree with you, through a couple of years ago, Zoom was great, you know, but people got zoomed out. And to where if that's kind of cool, they got zoomed out.
About to get
zoomed out. But, you know, with that, the ability with a mobile podcast is to where if businesses close down or there are lockdowns, you know, we can bring this thing anywhere. Just go out in the parking lot and, you know, do this. And whether your beliefs on the pandemic, masking up or not, we're going to not get into that. Maybe that's a different episode, you know, one day, but it doesn't matter. So we have that ability to kind of pivot to where we don't have to go back to the old way of Zoom that people are tired of, because I think we're created for community. We're all communal beings, you know. I think God created us that way to where we thrive in that. You remember Maslow, we learned in school, like the hierarchy of needs chart, and to where it's like, you know, food and shelter. I mean, we have to have that first, but right after that is community. I mean, it's a core need that we have that's ingrained in us. That's part of our DNA. And so, you know, there was such a loneliness, I think, that set in, you know, through the pandemic. I mean, people are in home, they can't get out. And so for us to have that ability to just get in, you know, that aspect of what you've created here, you know, the dream that you've had that now we're actually putting legs to and going to do it. I think, you know, it's truly one of a kind. And, you know, the second part of that is just the story aspect of it. I mean, we are hardwired for story. You know, think about one of the most, you know, I don't want to say pastimes, but people love going to a movie. And I mean, these movies, Hollywood makes so much money on opening weekend of a movie. You put the trailer out, and what's so cool about a trailer of a movie, you know, you have a minute and a half of just every highlight of that story to where you get brought in like, man, I gotta go see that, you know, whether it's an action film, you know, whether it's a rom-com, you know, or whatever it is, all those elements of the story, to where when you watch the movie, we're invited into that story. And to where I was listening one time, there's a guy, J.J. Peterson, and he was talking about narrative transportation, which I'd never heard of at the time. And what narrative transportation is that when you watch a movie and that part that makes you cry, that part that makes you laugh, that part that makes you, you know, happy for the person or sad for the person, you had narrative transportation to where it brought you into that story to where you feel like you're really there. And so when we're talking to people and we're working on marketing and branding and their business and all that stuff, the goal with like copywriting and a sales page and everything that we're doing is that narrative transportation to where if we hit them, you know, with the right words, they're going to come into our story, and we're going to build that community. We're going to build that environment, because think of any industry. You have options for everywhere you want to go. You have options for the dentist that you want to go see. You have options for the kind of car that you want to go get and drive. You have options for the schools that your kids go to. Everything, we have options. And so there's certain values, there's certain convictions, there's certain morals, there's all these things about specific brands and businesses that entice us to pull us in. And so, but that narrative transportation, when I heard that for the first time, it was like an aha moment for me, to where when we work on our words, how is it that we can invite you into the story? And so I'm with you, man. Like, when we find some of these people, we go out. I mean, there's so many people out there we don't even know. We don't know who we're going to interview. We don't know, what kind of people are going to come our way. But I'm excited to hear these stories, man, because, I mean, it's one of those things, you get on the edge of your seat and you're just waiting, like, tell me more. Yeah. And then when you think about it from a marketing perspective, that's where content comes in. Each time you push out a social media post, each time you send out an email, it's that tell me more. And people are excited to hear from the brand that they follow, with that. That's at least my story. That's what I believe.
Yeah, man. And we got a fridge in here. We can have water, adult beverages.
I'm a big fan of bubble water. You like bubble water?
Yeah, I like bubble water. I just saw an Instagram video where a kid tried to drink a whole thing of bubble water without stopping, and he turned around and hit
the garage door.
Yeah.
Dude, I saw that. After he chugs it, he does this burp. He's like, "What is happening?" And he turns around, just nails the garage door.
Oh man, I love it,
dude. That video cracks me up.
Pastime.
My little girl. Well, actually, I have 3 little girls now from recent wedding, but she has a friend, and she calls it spicy water. So she asked for the spicy water. But I like bubble water. I don't want to get sidetracked here, but yeah, man, got a fridge over here.
Yeah, man.
Gonna outfit this thing. I mean, this is sick.
Yeah, thinking of the possibilities, right?
Yep.
The experience,
Experience, I like it. And we've chatted about it. We don't want this thing to be formal, right?
Nah.
This is just informal conversation. We're not gonna sit here and look at the camera and tell you what we're going to teach you about or talk about, just being recorded while we have a conversation. And so there's going to be some people that turns off. They're not part of our tribe. We're cool with that. But I'm curious to see where this thing's going to go.
Yeah. I think it's really, I just want to, educate people as much as we can, give them some nuggets of wisdom. If they're businesses like ours, small businesses, large businesses, entrepreneurs, I feel like that, all of us in our experience, we have just so much that we could share, share the love, right?
That's true.
It's the Love Your Brand podcast.
Yeah,
so really just share the love, man. That's what we're about. And, there's enough room for everyone. Anymore. Because I don't view them as a client. I get so invested. In what drives them, and how can we benefit them, and how can we best serve them, right? It's it's partners. It's a partnership, true partnership. So
that's good, bro.
Usually it's not a good fit, when people come in, they're like, hey, we just want this, or they're big on micromanaging, and they don't have an open mind to receive feedback, because, a partnership is a two-way street. month, you're going to make $100,000 a month,
Mm-hmm.
right? And unfortunately, that's what you got now. The market is saturated. You've got all these marketers. It's so noisy. All these companies say, hey, we've got the magic bullet. Come drop $20,000 and you're set up. Everything's automated and you're going to be on Easy Street. We'll do all the sales. Everything's automated. You just show up and
they're probably saying that in front of their Lamborghini, right?
and run your business. Yeah, the one they rented, right?
Yeah, exactly.
$50 for an hour. So, it's just noisy in general. So, my biggest passion is how do you break through the noise with a company that really has a mission and wants to have an impact. As their revenue grows, their impact grows. That's where kind of like we're TA, that's our mission and value. As our revenue grows and our impact should grow. The more that we're blessed, the more I want to bless others.
Yeah.
I went and saw, speaking of movies, I went and saw Sound of Freedom.
How was that?
Oh my gosh. Freaking rocked me.
Man, I can't wait to see it.
Took me on a roller coaster, ups and downs. But truly it was so impactful. It told the story, and it was based off a true story about a subject that is very underrated and is not discussed enough.
Very controversial.
Very controversial. But immediately I said, as a company, we're donating to this organization. Within a week, we're donating monthly to this organization. I signed up to support any kind of events or any other needs. We'll see where it goes, but that's impact. That's change. And it could look different for any other people, right? You can serve on a nonprofit. You can do, a few pro bono projects.
I want to comment on that real quick. It's a good point you bring up, and it makes me think of the phrase "like attracts like," and you're making a stand. So TalenAlexander, that's your company, and this podcast is powered by TalenAlexander, and with that, you're putting out there what matters to us as a brand, and as Sound of Freedom as an example. People that disagree with that, they're going to disagree with us as a business, us as a brand, and that's okay. We're okay with that. But also, when you put that out there, it's going to attract the same people that are aligned. And so like attracts like. And I think of right now, we have I don't want to say client, we have a partner, and with their mission, what they're doing, it's big about impact. You just said the word impact. And so did this partner, when they found us, see these similarities to where, hey, that's somebody I want to partner with, because it's one thing just to look at, you can Google a marketing agency or branding agency. Everybody's going to pop up. There are going to be ads all over the place. And all of us, we want to say we're the best. We're going to deliver results. We're going to do X, Y, Z, blah, blah, blah. It's all BS, honestly. But when you put yourself out there and you say, this is what we stand for, we believe in this, and you think of the polarizing type of topics, it's almost, let's talk about Democrats versus Republicans, if we want to get political for a second. If you're Republican, it's clear on you stand for these things. If you're a Democrat, it's clear that you stand for these things, and they are differing things. And so you're on this side of the aisle or that side of the aisle. And so it's easy to align yourself based on what matters to you. And so by you doing that and choosing, hey, when we make money, it's not just for greed and selfishly that we can bring it in. You're coming in and saying everything that you spend is going to go to this cause. And so somebody sees that and they say, I support that cause as well. And so they're more inclined to want to move forward, with the business. And I think too many people today are focused on creating a business instead of creating a brand. Because creating a brand, we talk about it often. It's not just a logo. It's not your color palette. It's not the font. Those things encompass the brand, but the brand is what matters to us. you know, what are the values that are most important to us? What are our core beliefs, kind of a thing? And you got to put yourself up there. And when you're honest with that stuff and you put it out there, there's haters. You know, there's haters that come and they're gonna, I think of, we won't get on a sidetrack here, but you think of some of these people in high positions and political and all this stuff, and just the hate mail that they get. I mean, it's liquid venom. And so I think as people grow and you get bigger, you get more exposure out there, people are going to see it. And the people that disagree, are just going to come after you, you as in whoever's doing this. But the people that do agree, they're going to get aligned as well. And so I think it's critically important. You nailed it, being about impact, and how when we choose a partner, because also I think it's important to say that we don't accept everybody as a partner. Sometimes we might not be the best fit. And early in my professional career, in a time where I would take any client that I could, because I felt like I needed the money, when it was some bad stuff, taking on some bad clients that just, there were no boundaries. They abused the situation, looking for the cheapest route, all this stuff. And I don't blame that client. It was my fault, because I need to be a better job to look at somebody and say, I'm not the partner for you. And then give a referral and say, but I think these people could help you out, kind of a thing. So we're going to be clear on exactly, hey, what it is that's important to us, exactly the things that we go after and that are true to our cause. And, we're not going to step back from that.
Yeah. I think it's important, definitely, to, like I mentioned earlier about the narrative. I feel like so many organizations, they try to straddle so many positions that there's really no value. There's no value. They have no value-based mission. They're like, this and that. They kind of flow with the, I get it, because at the end of the day, let's face it, money, pays the bill.
To make money,
but actually finance it. So we spent, other people's money. So
thank you, other people. If you're listening, we appreciate you.
Tolerance to debt, all that good stuff.
Separate topic.
Oh yeah, Dave Ramsey.
I like Dave.
Not related.
Not related.
Not related.
I was looking up when I was working on getting us on Spotify and all that stuff the other day. You carry the same last name, Ramsey, Jason Ramsey, and Dave Ramsey, and I think that might help our search also. When you type in Ramsey, I mean, Dave Ramsey takes up the whole page, but little Jason Ramsey down there. I think we were laughing about that one time because, we're using AI for some stuff, and you were trying to get like a bio about you and seeing what AI had to say about you, and we don't exist yet. We're still small scale. AI doesn't know about us yet, but we're working on it.
Jason Alexander has not reached AI.
I don't know if you saw the Slack channel yesterday with the team. I think we should all, that's our last name. The TA team, everybody's an Alexander. We got J. Hill Alexander. Got Julia Alexander, Megan Alexander, Simon Alexander. We got everybody as an Alexander.
Yeah, Megan said, breathe, live, TalenAlexander. And then Jay Hill was like, hey, you should get a tat like Jason. And she was like, no, Jay Hill, that should be your first tattoo.
That's it.
Jay Hill was like, nah, maybe not for my first one.
I'll get back with you.
I'll get back. I said, that's cool. I wouldn't anticipate anyone else getting a tattoo of their logo but me. Of any logo.
Dude, actually, so if the camera can pick up, looking at your lower bicep,
it is right.
you got TalenAlexander on your arm. You are your brand. And what's interesting about that is we create t-shirts for our brands. We create hats for our brands, all this stuff. So we're walking billboards, we're advertisements as we go out. And let's say I am my own brand. I have a company and I'm at the grocery store or You know, I'm at driving my car. Let's say you have a sticker on your car, kind of a thing. You pull somebody off, you know, or cut in front of them, or you flick them off, or you're rude to somebody in person, and they see, well, hold on, if you're a part of that company, I want to have nothing to do with you based on how you act. So you're branded. My point with all that is you're branded. So if you go out and act like a jerk, which I haven't seen you act like a jerk, somebody's going to look and be like, TalenAlexander, you know, and they're going to kind of stick the middle finger up to that company. So you're a walking permanent fixture of your brand.
Yeah, man. I think about 10 years ago, I just had this epiphany, and it was, you know, I think, you know, if you're spiritual or if you're not, you know, being an entrepreneur, it's all about balance. You know, you can't be spiritual on Sunday and then Monday through Saturday.
That's good.
You know, it's all about balance. It's 24/7, 365. You know, and it's not work. It's not home life. It's not husband. It's not. I don't have switches. I don't turn off switches. You know, I'm just me. And yeah, sometimes my wife gets pissed, right? I'm like, we're in a conversation and I have this idea, this creative idea. I'm like, oh, blah, 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 blah. She's like, Jason, work. I'm like, I'm sorry, babe. It's just, it's not a switch with me. It's just who I am, right?
Yeah.
And that's really what I want to help other brands be, is who they are. They, you know, love your brand. They've got to be passionate about their brand. I want that passion about their brand to tell their story, right? And it's not a checklist. It's not like, here's your logo, here's your mission statement, here's your logo identity package, here's your campaign. You know, to create a true strong brand, you need to. It's pretty much a forever thing, because I think you've heard me say this before. You know, your brand is created over time, by over a long period of time, when people see your brand in different formats on social media, on your website, during search, and they create their own little story of your brand, right? So our goal as an agency at TalenAlexander is to constantly collect that data and that information, and then help craft that messaging and that story out to support that, because your customers, whoever they are, B2B, B2C, or whatnot, they're the ones that's truly going to build your brand. Think of it, it's million of sub stories, right?
Right.
And just built and put together, and you know, someone else could look at TA and have this completely different story than what this other person has. You know, it blows my mind, man, and it's a constant thing. So when it comes to branding, that's why when I meet with entities, I'm like, this isn't a one and done. It's like, you don't set it and forget it.
Yeah.
You know, you got to come back to it. You got to reevaluate it. You got to, go through your customer journey, get their feedback, go internally, get, your culture. Oh my gosh, companies, your culture. If your culture is not with it, then forget it, right? Because that's what permeates out. If someone called you and you were just a butt,
Me being a butt?
I'm trying to keep it PG, but just not an elevated person, not our cup is always overflowing, right? We're positive thinkers, we're dreamers, we build dreams, we landscape, we architect. It's our job to help mold your future. The past is the past. That's all fine and dandy. We can use that data You know, it's valuable data, but what we like to do is focus on the future and help, you know, mold that and then constantly build that brand surrounding your mission that we help.
Dude, that's good. I one comment on that, then before we close this episode out, you talked about company culture, and I think that's like for TA employees, you know, people that work with a team, that culture is such a big proponent of what you've built here, and which is critically important. There was one time I was in Las Vegas and I saw Richard Branson speaking, you know, from like Virgin, Atlantic, all that, and everything he's done. And he walked out on stage, and the guy that was interviewing, you know, suited up, tie and everything. Richard Branson comes out with scissors, grabs the tie right under his neck, cuts it off, like right in front of, you know, thousands of people. He's just like, oh, this is too stuffy. You know, take your tie off. It just cuts his tie. You know, I'm cracking up because I think this is like an expensive tie brand, all that stuff. And the guy just kind of looked a little mortified as he was doing it. But they were having a conversation. And, you know, so often I hear businesses that are talking about, it's all about the client. It's all about the customer. And Richard Branson had a different perspective. He said, no, it's all about your company. It's all about your team members first, before the client. And how if you get your team aligned, if you get your team to love what they're doing and to love, you know, the organization, all of that is going to be reflected when they're talking to the clients. And so it was just an incredible insight. And he has implemented with his company, you know, I come from corporate world. You know, you start a job, you have like 2 weeks of vacation, you work there for 10 years, then you get another week of vacation, just climbing that ladder. You know, I hated that model. But Richard Branson says, my employees can take as much time off during the year as they want. They don't have to request. They don't get 1 week, 2 weeks. If they want 9 months off, they can take 9 months off. And you have people that are like, that's crazy. Why would you do that? They're going to abuse that. And if somebody didn't love what they did, they would abuse it. But the fact is, what he created with his company is a team that loves it. And to where they come in, they love working with one another. And so they don't abuse that. And he gives them the freedom. He gives them the flexibility. And so to where people can just take off when they want, but they take off less time because they're excited about it, because they have that freedom. It made me think of like a kid. You know, if you tell your kid, no, 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 their whole life, then they go off to college. What do they want to do? They want to rebel because you just told them, no, you can't do this your whole life. But when you give them this freedom and flexibility and empower them to make smart choices, like Richard Branson does with his company, it changes everything. And so then when they go out and get a client or talk to somebody, it is that comes out, you know, in who they are. It's not something you have to try to act and try to be. You actually become that, and the client picks up on that. And it goes back to what we were originally talking about earlier, to where, you know, making an impact or the things that matter with your brand, you're going to attract those same people. So I think, you know, the company culture here at TA, you know, is incredible, and everybody enjoys what they do. And so it epitomizes your slogan of love your brand very well.
I hope so. And man, something has been on my mind, and I don't know who this is for. It's probably for a lot of people. But I've noticed how our culture, we're so over-coursed, certified, I mean, you name it. It's like we're getting hit with so many directions of certifications, of information, that that we're in this constant state of consumption. So if you're like an entrepreneur or starting a business or been in business forever and you need to invest in yourself, okay, you definitely need to constantly invest in yourself and grow.
Yeah.
That's pure. That's 100%.
Personal development.
Now, but don't read 10 books and implement 100 things in a month, right? It's a little pet peeve that I caught myself doing it. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to implement this, and this. And it really, truly didn't stick with me. I didn't really gain any value from it. And it was very valuable. So now I've kind of made a principle that when I find something that I find of great value that I want to implement into my life for to improve my performance per se, like my daily performance. I find something that I want to implement. I implement it for at least 30 days, even if it's small, before I move on to the next. So just from working with companies, and it's the same thing with marketing, they want to implement everything at once. They want to implement, they're overconsumed, where nothing sticks. So it's the same thing with us, with self-help, with motivation. We overconsume. I'm going through something that's, I don't know, it's like 20 principles or something that I'm really digging into. And each principle, I'm really trying to evaluate it, meditate on it, incorporate it into my life for a good amount of time before I move to the next. Because there's just so much information out there. But I found that really helps me, grow. And I've just seen a lot of, people out there, entrepreneurs, business owners, they're just overconsumed. And it's hard. It's hard to have balance. I go back to the balance, right? Being one. I think that's the true key to running a business. Successful could look a lot different for a lot of different people. Me, it's, money's great. Money helps out a lot, but the balance is priceless.
That's it.
Being able to have spiritual balance, health balance, you got to work out. You got to sweat, right? You got to take that time to invest in yourself, to help yourself grow. If you're not constantly growing and investing in yourself, then you'll never grow. Your company will never grow. So just something that's been on my mind lately that I just wanted to share.
Dude, that's a mic drop. I mean, that's how you end an episode right there. Seriously, that's extremely valuable, because to me, it's like family first, God first, family first. And yeah, we need money. We have bills, we have lifestyle, we have all these things. It's a requirement. I'm not driven by it. I know you and it's the simple things in life. We're simple people. And to end with that consumption aspect that you're talking about. Think of 10, 20 years ago, when we were younger, we didn't have access to all this stuff. Remember life when we didn't have a phone, when it wasn't on our hip, our kids, I remember life when there was no internet, and our kids are baffled by that. But how cool it was, just leaving your house, going to play in the creek, going to spend time with your friends, actually engaging in conversation, sitting at the dinner table. There's no distractions. There's no, hey Siri, hey Amazon, or whatever that one's called. Spot on with it. But I think maybe we wrap this episode up.
Yeah.
What do you think?
All right,
How
man.
long is it? We've been filming for a while.
Nice.
Time flies.
It does. When you're having fun.
Well, hopefully hopefully we got the audio. Hopefully we don't lose video. Hopefully our lighting's all right. Hopefully we can edit this and look good, Otherwise we'll have another blooper reel produced. But we're learning, We'll see where this ends up on the episode list. But plenty more topics to come, man. This is fun.
Thanks for listening and joining us on the Love Your Brand podcast. Stay tuned for the next episode, and remember, share the love.